Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp. Thanks for being here. Welcome to Thursday. I'm welcoming you to the day that I've just created. Important show today. We're going to talk about the algorithm that could one day destroy your life and has destroyed the lives of many Americans already. We're going to be talking about the big BRICS summit that just happened and more on Israel, and all that's coming up right now. Click thumbs up, click share, click the throw in a comment in the chat, even if it just says hey. Even if, first of all, it's the friendly thing to do, all right? And secondly, it helps fight the algorithms. But all right, joining me right now is Jafar Khan.
Hey, what's up, Lee? What's up, everyone?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are y'all? How are you?
Yeah, I can't speak for them. They seem to be, the people in the chat seem to be all right. They seem to be okay.
Hopefully they're good. Prayers up.
I'm going to start off with a clip of George Galloway at the big BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia. And this was a pretty big deal. But of course, the West doesn't want you to know that this even happened or exists or what BRICS is or anything. So here is friend of the show, George Galloway, speaking in Kazan, Russia yesterday.
Who sanctioned whom would be the question that you would ask, because you're lucky you're here. This place is booming. Our place is sinking, and Germany is sinking. France is sinking. Our economists have thrown a boomerang at Russia, and it's come right back and knocked us all out. I am here, as we all are, in Kazan. This is not Moscow. It's not St. Petersburg. This is Kazan, Tatarstan. Most people in the West don't know where it is, but it's booming. Yeah. I was in a shopping mall yesterday. You couldn't get moving for shoppers. There were no Western brands, no Western outlets, all Russian or Russia's friends, in the BRICS, for example. They're the suppliers now. We have thrown away a market and a supplier of vitally needed raw materials, commodities that our economies needed to prosper.
And he's not wrong that the sanctions against Russia have largely boomeranged and injured less so the United States, more so Europe, which is struggling pretty terribly. And we, rather than using diplomacy, rather than trying to work with other countries, the U.S. is trying to create proxy wars around the world. And one of the worst is obviously in Ukraine.
Now's not the time for the U.S. to learn new skills out of nowhere.
Yeah, when you've been going this long, why try diplomacy now? Why?
Tried and true.
So I wanted to bring people some of the details about this BRICS summit that just went on. This is from Al Jazeera. The Russian President Putin is hosting the annual BRICS summit. Started Tuesday, just wrapped up. The 3-day conclave will be the largest gathering of world leaders in Russia in decades. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, but of course includes many other nations. And BRICS is now, I mean, largely thanks to China, has a larger GDP than the G7. So it's outpacing the G7. The group started in 2006, and in 2023, BRICS extended invitations to Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. After these countries applied for membership, all of those but Saudi Arabia are now formally members. Saudi Arabia said it wanted to join, so I guess there's still negotiations ongoing. And of course, Saudi Arabia would be the biggest punch to the face of the United States if they join, because they are the linchpin of the petrodollar system, which gives America a great amount of our wealth. So if they're signaling that Saudi Arabia might start moving out of the petrodollar, the U.S. is fucked. Leaders of the BRICS countries, including the Indian Prime Minister, the Chinese President, the South African President, they all attended the summit. Brazil's President Lula would have, but apparently he fell and got a head injury. Hopefully he's not too seriously damaged. I would also want to find out how many undercover CIA guys were standing behind him when he fell and got a head injury.
Yeah, why are there so many banana peels around him? What's going on here?
UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Iranian president, and I'm going to stop saying the rest of the names because no one wants to hear me struggle through them all. Egyptian president, the Ethiopian prime minister, they all were at the summit. And of course, just attending the summit, whether much happened there or not, and it sounds like a lot did happen there, just attending it is a huge slap into the face of the United States and shows how the world is not just bowing down to the U.S. at every turn anymore. Just being there. It's kind of like the Oscar nominations. Just being nominated is an honor. So, UN Secretary General was also there and met with Putin. And also there were meetings between presidents and countries that have not traditionally gotten along, like Iran and India, I believe, met, and China and India settled a border dispute. And all of this is horrifying to the United States. All of this getting along and speaking to each other and working with each other is absolutely terrifying to the United States. And it also shows how things have boomeranged. The sanctions against Russia boomeranged. It had the opposite effect in many ways. It had part of the intended effect, which was to cut Russia from Europe. That largely has happened economically. The boomerang effect of Russia running into the arms of China and other countries and greatly speeding up the growth of BRICS, all of that was unintentional consequences of this proxy war created by the United States in Ukraine following the 2014 Maidan coup that was U.S. and CIA backed. And even the New York Times has said the CIA was in Ukraine in training Ukrainians, sending people into Russia, fighting on the Russian border, fighting in the Donbass. That's the New York Times has admitted that. So these are not really secrets anymore.
Yeah, an article that they wrote and then forgot about.
There's a lot of these kind of revelations in the New York Times where they're hugely important revelations, but if the New York Times doesn't really love what it says, it's a quiet little article that'll.
Yeah, they'll put out a lot of articles, but they won't do the thing where they put the dots together, right? They'll just kind of have them separately disconnected. And,
they'll put one on a train to San Francisco, one dot on a train to Texas, and
they don't invest in that red yarn that you're supposed to have in your precinct.
Times are tough for the New York Times. They can't invest in all that red yarn. I mean, it's not as many readers as it used to be.
Yeah, their journalists are unionizing. I mean, what do they expect? They don't cut any red yarn anymore.
I feel like this is somehow related. The U.S. to the BRICS, growth of BRICS, the U.S. national debt has increased by $473 billion over 3 weeks. It now stands at $35.8 trillion. That's $103,000 of debt for every American. And as Dick Cheney said, debt doesn't matter, though. It's an unbelievable amount of debt. And this gets back to a lot of kind of deeper points, such as the fact that money is debt. The way we've created our money, the second a dollar is created, you owe $1.05 back in interest to the bank. So therefore, the monetary supply is just every time it's increased, you are creating massive amounts of debt, and U.S. debt is shooting through the roof. And the reason it hasn't crushed the United States, whereas other countries, when they're like, Greece, when they're drowning in debt, bad things happen. In the United States, it hasn't had as big of an effect, or not nearly as big an effect, because of the petrodollar, and the fact that the U.S. dollar is the global reserve currency. So the U.S. can print as much as we want, and our money still has power, but as we're seeing, BRICS is growing, the petrodollar is decreasing, countries are buying and selling oil outside of the dollar more and more. Of course, countries are also moving beyond oil, which would kill the petrodollar. And the United States certainly does not want that.
Yeah, it's a damn shame.
So Let's talk for a few minutes about Israel. Something's going on there.
Huh?
Yeah, not a lot of people mentioning this.
Yeah. What's going on over there? A soccer match?
Yeah, they've achieved a lot of good wins in the World Cup, which I'm going to pretend is happening right now
Hmm.
for the sake of the joke. But so I brought to everybody the other day that Israel is thinking of using biometrics to scan people in northern Gaza. And for some odd reason, this analogy did not really hit me at the time. But as Mint Press is saying, Israel is aiming to establish concentration camps in Gaza with CIA help. And really, you got to take the biometric thing and compare it, I don't know, to the numbers on people's arms during the
Yeah.
Holocaust. It's like the advanced version of that.
Yeah.
We've modernized the Holocaust number system, which was created by IBM.
Wow. Yeah, that is a dark, accurate analogy. And Israel is for a while now been like a pioneer in evil, nefarious technology.
True. They kind of pride themselves in being one of the most advanced evil countries in the world.
Yeah, they have a big tech sector. I mean, it is
Yeah.
tech. But
Yeah, no, there's been a big tech surge in Israel over the past several years, and much of it in surveillance, AI to assassinate people, etc. And that is one of the reasons Israel is moving towards I don't know about collapsing, but failing in various regards. Is apparently the big tech bros are fleeing Israel.
mm,
The Biden administration, from Mint Press, the Biden administration has approved the use of 1,000 private mercenaries with CIA training as part of a joint U.S.-Israeli effort to create a high-tech dystopia out of the ashes of Gaza. It is anticipated that these mercenaries will run biometric internment camps in the Gaza Strip, strengthening population control after the genocide. And I always find it fascinating when the U.S. it's mainly the U.S., but this is U.S. and Israel, wants to pretend we don't have boots on the ground. We send in mercenaries and we go, what? They have nothing to do with us.
yeah,
Completely different thing.
yeah. They're not wearing the uniforms. Their paycheck goes through one loop before it gets to them.
They're paid by flowers by Irene, and so it's a completely completely different thing.
Yeah, they're contractors. They're just like the guys fixing the pothole down the street. It's the same exact thing.
And Mint Press is not the only one reporting this. Let's see. CARE is also reporting this. They're calling on the Biden administration to renounce Israel's reported plan to use U.S. mercenaries for Gaza internment camps. The Israeli government's reported plan for U.S. intelligence operatives and mercenaries to take control of aid distribution in Gaza and set up mass walled-off internment camps for Palestinians. According to the Israeli media outlet Yedioth Aronoth, the Israeli government is expected to approve a plan to establish those camps in Gaza operated by mercenaries from a private security firm run by U.S. and Israeli intelligence officials and special forces commanders. Journalist Dan Cohen reports that the Biden administration has approved the deployment of 1,000 CIA-trained private mercenaries as part of a joint U.S.-Israeli plan to turn Gaza's apocalyptic rubblescape into a high-tech dystopia. And of course, this goes along with the fact that they are now telling everyone to flee northern Gaza. And if you don't, apparently it's then fine to assassinate you, which is not true. But Israel pretends it is.
Middle East Eye, I think, reported that about half of Jabalia has been forced out.
Yeah, and let's see, this next article talks about how some people, I believe it's this next article, talks about how obviously the people that haven't left, many of them can't leave. This is from Mint Press also. After nearly a year of Israeli deliberations over what the next phase strategy is in the conflict with the Gaza Strip, which is a nice way of saying genocide, Israeli media reports began indicating that the plan would likely involve annexation and settlement expansion, which is a nice way of saying stealing all the land and pretending it's now Israel's.
Mhm.
What is now referred to as the general's plan, quote unquote, is likely the strategy Tel Aviv aims to implement in northern Gaza. This approach would involve seizing all territory north of the Netzarim corridor and designating it as a closed military zone. The plan would block all aid from entering the area and impose a surrender or starve scenario on the remaining Palestinians. But of course, that's not just Hamas that remains in North Gaza. I mean, it'd be war crimes even if it was just Hamas, but still, it's not just Hamas that remains there. Approximately 300,000 Palestinians still reside in northern Gaza, despite being ordered to evacuate. Some cannot leave physically, they unable to. Some fear for their safety during the journey. Others refuse as there is nowhere else to seek shelter. Some, after all they've been through, some are like, I'm going to stay and die with my home. And that's where I want to be. Like, I don't know that you can fault anyone for how they behave under this insane genocide. Under the general's plan, these civilians would be given a week to flee the north, after which all remaining individuals would be considered enemy combatants, which, of course, is yet another war crime. Critics say that this approach could lead to the mass killing of civilians. So this is the plan that...
Yeah, this is Israeling. You can't have your ethno-state without the ethnic majority, and Palestinians can't just disappear into thin air. So this is the core of Israel right here.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good point about like the ethno-state. The mere existence, yes, they want to steal some of the land, they want to steal some of the oil off of Gaza, but really what it came to, I mean, Gaza is a tiny little area compared to what Israel now claims outside of Gaza. And so why is it they need to steal this tiny little remaining refugee camp, open air prison? Well, just the existence of Palestinians as refugees kind of refutes the idea that Israel is a democracy or that Israel is freedom in the Middle East or any of these things. So they need to ethnically cleanse, in their view, in their psychotic view, they need to ethnically cleanse this area in order for Israel to, claim that they're this free and open society in the Middle East. And that along with various stealing of resources, etc. And this is another reason why they were never going to allow a two-state solution. They claimed they did. They still claim they do, because it's a nice thing to claim to delay anyone, any of the UN actions or anything else. But they would never allow a two-state solution, because once you decide it's a Palestinian state, guess what? They have the right to a military. They have a right to come and go as they please. They have a right to control their own water and food and all these things.
The lie they always say is that every time we have offered any of these accords, that they offered them a state and that the Palestinians rejected it, those things you listed, especially the military, were never offered. So they have never offered a two-state solution, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. So they pretend they've offered it, and various factions in Palestine have refused it, which is just false.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In a second, well, here's some good news, and then I'm going to get to the algorithm that could destroy your life on a positive note.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to a positive note.
Yeah. Make it quick, though. Make it quick.
This actually is a positive note, though. Starbucks is totally floundering, and they're, of course, heavily connected to Israel. And the former head of Starbucks, what's his name? Schultz, is that it?
Yep.
He was given like the top award by Israel for his support and of propaganda and money and everything else of Israel. So Starbucks is one of these top companies that is really connected to Israel, and they're in crisis. And this is being reported by, mainstream media. Starbucks in crisis. New CEO slashes menu as sales plunge another 6%. And they don't.
And they're like, "Oh, something's wrong with our menu. We got to fix it."
Yeah, not the genocide. Not. If we just get rid of the cake pops.
Yeah, exactly.
Then all will be fine.
We need a new seasonal latte. Stats, everyone.
The unicorn frappuccinos really fucked us. So now we're going down. Yeah. No, some of them have admitted, or various people connected to Starbucks have admitted that the boycott, that a lot of people are boycotting Starbucks because of this genocide. Oh yeah, and I brought a report a few months back that 1 in 3 humans on the planet is now boycotting something connected to Israel.
Oh wow.
And so some of this drop is definitely connected to Israel aligning with Starbucks aligning with Israel, but some of it could be other things as well. I'm not acting like that's the only reason. But here's a quote from it. We've drifted from our core and customers are visiting less often, faced with 3 consecutive quarters of declining sales. What was going on during those 3 consecutive quarters?
Yeah.
Does anyone know? Does anyone want to guess?
Yeah.
Starbucks recent earning down another 6%. He says the company's just made it harder for the customer. I mean, I will say that Starbucks used to be, I haven't been in one in over a year or 2 years or something, but it used to be that you'd go into Starbucks and it was very nice. And you were like, oh, I'm in like a little kind of hippie folk music den of coffee beans. And then it just like your average Starbucks now or past 5 years, you walk in and it's just like someone's peeing in the corner and there's like coffee dumped on the floor and you stick to the table.
It's beyond the genocide. Starbucks is very boycottable. You know what I mean? Like it's not the biggest sacrifice I've made in my life.
You're saying they've got a punchable face.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am very excited about this. The Starbucks is struggling because people are boycotting. And so I wanted to remind everyone, I've covered it before, but I've been using it more, that there's an app on your phone. I think there's more than one, but I'll promote one right now. An app on your phone that will tell you everything to boycott. And it's called the No Thanks app. And here is Israeli media not so happy about it. This is from several months ago. Promoted on TikTok, No Thanks boycott app targets products tied to Israel. And if you download the app, it's free. It's called No Thanks. And I'm not getting paid to say this. I just want to do things that harm Israel, that stop it from committing genocide. And if you download the app, it's free. And you basically can type in any product brand and it just says on the screen, no thanks or a yes. And it's like that simple. You type in Nike, you'll find out Nike should be boycotted. And you can also scan the products as well. So it is a pretty great app. Pretty well done. And for now, they tried to ban it for a bit from like the Google apps but it's back. And I don't know if there are efforts now again to ban it, but at the moment, you can pretty much get it anywhere. And it allows you to vote with your wallet. And I should just remind everyone that Israel, when I brought the story initially 2 months ago, 43,000 Israeli businesses had collapsed. And the estimate was like 65,000 by the end of the year. They have entire ports that have gone bankrupt because there's no incoming traffic. And here's the thing. You commit genocide, I think you deserve it. I think you deserve some tough economic times. So,
yeah, it's just so beyond all the inhumanity. It just seems so irrational. People say like that it's Netanyahu trying to save face. Like I'm not inside his head. I don't know, but yeah, there's so many. The Democrats are throwing away an election, like what is a quote? I think it was Hassan. Always finding a way to grab defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah. That quote's been around for a while, and it's good for the Democrats, but it also speaks to the fact that the Democrats and Republicans at the highest level, I don't mean your average foot soldiers, but the highest level, they're the same business community. And so it's not that different to them. You and I just did a story 2 days ago about Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock, saying that there's no difference in the presidential election for Wall Street, for corporate America. He's like, I don't really care. It's the same for us.
It'll be fine. So
when I used to somewhat believe in the Democrats back when I was, 25, 26, I was amazed at how they grabbed defeat out of the jaws of victory.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took me a while to be like, oh, they don't like care that much. Like they care a little because it's good for their bread and butter to like be in the ruling circles, but they don't care that much.
Me and you are not actually their constituents.
Yeah.
But truly, right? It's their donors. Yeah. It's that's who they are doing this for.
They would much rather sink someone like Bernie Sanders than stop Trump from getting elected.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's get to the story that is pretty. It's not unexpected, but it is just insane.
Okay.
The algorithm that could destroy your life and has already destroyed the lives of millions of Americans. And I'm certain, of everybody watching, a certain number of you are going.
Algorithms are already destroying my life, Lee. The ones that I choose to watch. So I'm excited for a new one.
You're talking about the ones that tell you which Netflix show you should look at?
Yeah, the movie review guys, big time. They're on my algorithm. Yeah, they're cooking. They're reviewing movies. They're destroying my life.
Yes, and I've talked about the problem with algorithms being used in some other things, such as how long someone should spend in prison. They're increasingly using algorithms for that to recommend to judges. Oh yeah, the algorithm says that this guy's going to likely to reoffend or whatever. Like, so go ahead and lock him up longer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like
landlords are using them to be like, hey, you could raise your rent by 3 cents this month and nothing will happen. And so go ahead and do that.
Right. So, but here is one where it is surprisingly direct that it is destroying lives. This is a new investigation by ProPublica, and it is about the algorithm and the company that created it that is deciding you will not get healthcare, to deny your healthcare coverage. Every day, patients across America crack open envelopes with bad news. Yet another health insurer has decided not to pay for a treatment. So for everyone outside of America, first you need to know that the U.S.
we need to catch y'all up on some things.
We need to catch you up. The U.S. destroys people's lives with healthcare.
We need to do a series recap real quick on America.
If you ever saw the show Breaking Bad, it's a lot like that. He had cancer, and then he had to murder a bunch of people because he had cancer. So
most people do GoFundMes, but that is an option you have as well.
Yeah, the new way of caring for any human being in America is a GoFundMe. There's no government anymore to help anyone. But the part that people might not understand is you can have insurance, and then the insurance company will just say, oh yeah, we're not covering the thing. So you can have insurance and have your life destroyed in multiple ways, be it all of your savings is spent on treating your cancer, even though it's quite treatable. It could be that you don't get the treatments you need and you die. Mm-hmm. So this is people who have insurance.
And this is insurance that they pay for with their labor.
Yeah.
They pay for it.
Yeah. So this opening paragraph is saying, yet another health insurance has decided not to pay for a treatment that their doctor recommended. So the doctor says you need it. Health insurance says we're not covering it. Sometimes it's no for an MRI for a high school wrestler with a strained back. Sometimes for a cancer procedure that will help a grandmother with a throat tumor. Sometimes for a heart scan for a truck driver feeling short of breath. These decisions often outsource medical reviews to a largely hidden industry that makes money by turning down doctors' requests for payments, known as prior authorizations. Call it the denials for dollars business. Wow, TF, thank you for the donation. Thank you for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. So awesome of you. TF says people are literally just sick of war. So the biggest player is a company called Evicor by Evernorth, which is hired by major American insurance companies and provides coverage to 100 million consumers. 1 out of every 3 insured Americans is covered by this. It is owned by the insurance giant Cigna. So you can remember the term Evicor, but it's really Cigna.
Mhm.
Investigation found that Evicor uses an algorithm backed by artificial intelligence, which some insiders call the dial. And I honestly don't even know that they know that it's like a letter off from being the denial.
Yeah. Yeah. That was probably the original title. I don't think we could do that. I don't think we
Yeah,
can do
the
that.
the denial's a bit too on the nose.
Yeah, we'll workshop that. We'll workshop that.
Artificial intelligence, that it can adjust to lead to higher denials. Some contracts ensure the company makes more money the more it cuts health spending. And it issues medical guidelines that doctors have said delay and deny care for patients. So literally, they can just decide, okay, the algorithm is approving or recommending approval of 25% of all claims. We'd like to increase our bottom line a little. We're gonna dial that to 22%,
Mhm.
and then the algorithm will make sure 22% are approved or whatever.
Yeah, it's so like fucked up that like, you know, AI is taking all our jobs when really a lot of these jobs, people don't want that. They would rather have human beings do these jobs. But AI, as we can see from this, easily could take the jobs of the CEOs. Like their jobs is profit extraction. That's it. And AI can do that, like it's doing right here. Sorry.
Well, no, it's a good point. And I've often made the point that AI could be breathtakingly positive for humanity.
Mhm.
Like if you're talking about AI that is able to take unfathomable amounts of data in and come out with solutions, but it depends on how you use it, who's using it, and how it's programmed or what data is fed into it. And if it's owned by the sociopaths at the top of our system, because our system uniquely promotes sociopaths, then it's going to service the sociopaths. And if AI were uniquely being or especially being used by people who want to save the forests or want to make sure there's enough fish population, that the fish population isn't collapsing, it could tell you in incredible ways. And
just number models, right? It would so clearly be able to do that, but
yeah, and you know, on a much larger degree, Peter Joseph's resource-based economy, you could create AI that calculates the entirety of the known world, just about. I mean, you could come close, of how many trees, how much oxygen, how many fish, so that we have literally a sustainable society around the world where we are not cutting down so many trees that we're dying. We're not killing so many fish that the whole fish are going extinct. And instead, we're doing the opposite. We're finding out the best ways to create deforestation.
Mm-hmm.
Where's
the incentive to save the world, Lee? You're not thinking.
I'm a terrible capitalist. Awful. So anyway, here's a quote from Evicor. From an Evicor medical officer, says, "We are improving the quality of healthcare by denying people the safety of healthcare, and by very happy coincidence, we're also decreasing a significant amounts of unnecessary cost." So for everybody out there who's not getting the procedures you need, just know you count as unnecessary cost.
Mm-hmm.
You are. I think our ruling elite view, I'd say 70% of Americans as unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. And I personally hate unnecessary cost. Oh, no. There's unnecessary cost for these companies.
Yeah, to keep people alive. Evercore markets itself to insurance companies by promising, and here's the key, they promise the insurance company a 3-to-1 return on investment. Basically, you pay us for this algorithm, we will give you 3 times as much as the cost of paying us back to you. For every $1 spent on Evercore, the insurer will pay out $3 less on medical care and other costs.
And it's so easy for them to do that. Like, what kind of business is this? Like, oh, we'll give you more profit by just denying coverage. Like, they're not even creating anything to do that. Like, it's so, oh my God.
Yeah, it's repulsive. Evercore, let's see. Evercore salespeople boasted a 15% increase in denials, according to the investigation, which is based on internal documents. So this is our own data saying we've helped insurance companies deny 15% more people than they were already denying. They were already doing an epic number of denials to begin with.
No longer will a greedy grandmother with colon cancer steal money from your pockets. We're offering you solutions.
She was probably getting those gold-plated colon cancer treatments.
Mm-hmm.
You know the ones.
I hate old ladies.
They're the worst. Based on corporate data, dozens of interviews, former employees, industry experts, healthcare regulators, an analysis of the company's own data since 2021, Evercore turned down prior authorization, meaning the doctors had recommended it. And basically, in order for it to happen, all they needed was the insurance company to sign off. They turned that down almost 20% of the time. And this is just in Arkansas because most states don't have regulations requiring this become public, but in Arkansas they do. So they were able to actually review these. By comparison, the equivalent figure for federal Medicare Advantage plans was 7% in 2022. Wow. So, and I've heard this from others, Medicare is not great. There's a lot of problems, but it's better than these garbage insurance companies that will stop you from getting your procedures.
Yeah, well, we're just so costly, and maybe we should look in the mirror and think about that.
Well, we should stop walking around so much.
Yeah, yeah. We know there's climate change happening, and why are we going outside and breathing in all that air? We're being selfish.
Yeah. Evercore has several ways to cut costs for insurers. Chief among them is the dial, the proprietary, another key word. We're not going to tell you how we're deciding that you will cannot get the care you need. And that's the first step for all the money they're making. And they say this is where tweaking the dial comes in. Evercore can adjust the algorithm to increase the number of requests sent for review to their in-house doctors, according to 5 former employees. So they can still claim that doctors are the ones who did it. Well, no. If you keep sending these back to doctors over and over again who know that their job is to deny procedures, then they'll deny procedures. Anyway, it's a very in-depth investigation that shows how this algorithm is being used to destroy people's lives. And a lot of people, it can put you in incredible debt if they say no. Like if you get the procedure and you weren't covered, it can make it so that some doctors will refuse to do procedures if you aren't covered. But also, I think a lot of people just are like, well, I don't have the money for the thing, so therefore I can't do it. And then they don't get the procedures they need. Many of them could save their lives or elongate their lives. So literally this is killing people.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the brave new world of technology, Jaffer. This is our brave sci-fi future. That is so exciting.
I got a tick in my elbow, but Dr. Skynet told me that it's actually fine. So I'm just going to go about my day for the rest of my life like this.
Dr. Skynet. Yeah. I've actually lost my arm below the elbow. But Dr. Skynet says we're all good. So. And yes, this is one of many algorithms that are being used to destroy lives, and it makes it all the harder. I mean, even before algorithms, it was very hard to fight back against any of these denials of coverage. But now it is increasingly getting to utterly impossible because you call the people and you say, I definitely need this treatment. And they go, well, it's the algorithm. What can we do? We don't even know why this said the thing.
Yeah. And the guy who's saying that also is an algorithm.
Yeah, it's a computerized voice. But no, even if it is a human, they're just saying they're like, oh, well, it's up to the special machine that goes beep, boop, beep, boop, and then prints out some ticker tape that says you're fucked. It is so dystopian. And this is happening in the country that is like the only industrialized nation without healthcare, without universal healthcare.
Yeah. But hey, we got this. We don't have healthcare, but we do have innovation.
We do. My mother-in-law is Swedish, and she got both of her knees redone because she could not walk very well. So major knee surgery on both knees. And, I was talking about it once on one of these live streams, and I said, and she got it for free. And she emailed me and said, Lee, that is incorrect. Okay. It cost me $30.
Yeah.
So even in Sweden, they're jacking those prices up to $30.
Yeah. Look, it's all give and take. We may not have healthcare, but we do have the nicest dirt roads of any other country. And that's a little callback to last episode. I don't know if it's worth it if it is to do callbacks, but
I like the two episode. I like the 2-episode callbacks. That's good. Yes, we are paving our roads in America because the federal government and the state governments are not putting enough money into roads. So some towns, areas are like, you know what? The dirt never needed repaving. So we'll just leave it. We'll go back to dirt. Okay. So I have stories coming up on how the DNC is actually sending questions to people interviewing Jill Stein to try and harass her via interviews that they're not even at. So I've got video of that coming up. Video of Theo Vaughn breaking down over as he's learning about Gaza, which, little late, but I'm glad he's learning. And so that's all coming up in a second, but let's take a second to do some light promotions. One is I have a new essay out I rarely write non-comedic essays, but this one is not a comedy essay, but people seem to really appreciate it. So I wanted to tell everybody it's free to read if you'd like it, if you'd like to read it. It's on pretty much all of my pages, but I guess one of the easier ones is you can read it for free on Patreon, patreon.com/Lee Camp. And I'll actually also put the link in the chat here, and it's called Of Butterflies and Genocide. And a lot of people are very much appreciating it. So just wanted to let you know. And like I said, you can read for free on Patreon, even though it is Patreon, patreon.com/Lee Camp. And when you get there, there's a little button right there on the page that says join for free. Obviously, I'd love for you to become a subscriber, but you can just click join for free, and you'll obviously be a free member on my Patreon. But if you want to throw in the $6 a month or more, that'd be amazing as well. Anyway, that is up. And of course, my new podcast, Just Comedy, 4 episodes of that are free to listen to as well. And you can find that on all your podcast platforms. I think I'm at like 80 reviews on Spotify, and I'm gunning for the 100. That 100's going to happen. You mark my word, man.
By the way, is the title of your podcast your attempt to not get deplatformed? It's just comedy. It's just comedy. Please, I'm begging you. Please.
I like that. I like that interpretation. No, it did have a twofold meaning. One is it's just my comedy segments. So there's no live streams like this that have some comedy, but they're back and forth between comedy and serious. It's just my comedy segments. But then the other one is it's like a just war. It's just comedy. So
good time.
Justice comedy. And where can people follow your stuff, Jaffer?
Just Jaffer Khan Comic on Instagram and TikTok. I make a lot of videos, comedy that are also politically oriented. I cover a lot of stuff about cops. So if you're into
Those are
being
the
pissed
those
off
are the
about
nice
cops,
those are the nice gentlemen with guns and no necks that I see wandering around, correct?
yes, they're the ones making sure that no one feels safe or comfortable or is has a throat that they could breathe through in the subway stations in New York City.
Good. Yes, the cops in New York recently murdered someone for jumping the fare at the metro, which important to take down those people jumping the fare.
Yeah, but the New York is adding new. I don't know if you saw, Lee, but they're adding. I don't even know what to call them, but they're like little things you can lean on because all the benches are gone. God forbid
they
an
got rid of the
unhoused person is comfortable for a
They
moment.
got rid of the bench. Oh, so this was one of the earlier segments I did on Redacted Night. You weren't there yet. It's called like discomfort architecture or something.
Hostile architecture.
Hostile architecture. And it's like, and I thought of the segment because for one thing, I saw they were putting down like pigeon spikes on the ground where homeless people like to sleep. And but I also noticed that the benches they'd offer are all slanted. So you can sit there for a minute, but you're not going to stay there for more than a couple minutes.
Yeah. You know, I actually have an MFA. I submitted many of my designs to the city, trying to put my art degree to work, but rejected them. That was a joke. I don't have an art degree.
And last thing, I just want to remind everyone, I'm headed to Tibet to film some stuff there, and I will be gone for 2.5 weeks. But I will be doing my best to upload videos and stuff. So the live streams will not be at their normal time, or things won't be live streams, but I will be putting up videos, I hope. And I just wanted to warn everybody, I haven't died. I'm not going away forever. I mean, you know, depending on how good the food is, I might be. But yeah, I'll be back in 2.5 weeks, and that absence begins Monday. And by coincidence, I am missing the moment when America will burn down. So
enjoy your last breaths of pure, unadulterated democracy while you can, Lee.
I will. Okay, so I want to show this clip. I had Jill Stein on just the other day, and it was heavily suppressed, so most people have not seen it, but it was a good interview. But of course, she is getting harassed more than ever over the fact that she dare go against the corporate shitlords. And here she is on Tavis Smiley's show. He's obviously a big platform. And he said a very interesting thing before he began asking her questions.
And I'm doing this not because I mean to put you on the defensive at the outset of the conversation. I'm doing it because I've already shared with the audience 2 hours ago when I first came on the air today that in the middle of the night last night, I received an email from the DNC. It came from a private email. It did not come from a DNC email as I typically receive. I would not name the person who sent the email, but it came to me from a DNC official. And let me just read what this email says. I'm reaching out from the DNC because it is my understanding that Tavis Smiley will be interviewing Jill Stein this week. I wanted to put a few things of note on your radar screen for it being, of course, the conversation. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. And so there are 5 or 6 things here that the DNC evidently wants me to ask Jill Stein. So in full transparency, these are not my questions to start this conversation. These are from the DNC, and I want to give Dr. Jill Stein a chance to respond to them. And maybe we'll get into some conversation about what it means that the DNC is tracking this thing the way they are to send me questions to ask Dr. Jill Stein. I'll leave that, as my grandmother, Big Mama said, we're going to leave that lay where the good Lord done flung it.
And I didn't even bother to listen to the question. I don't really care what they are, but this is the DNC basically telling interviewers how to effectively harass Jill Stein. And of course, it's not journalism. It's not ethical. It's not any of those things. But this is
He's
what
like, question 1, how dare you? Question two.
Question 2. What makes you think you have a right to be a part of the democracy we own? And here
Question
is
four. What the hell? Anyways.
here is Jill's response from a little later in the show.
I just want to know, has anybody tried to control your interview of a presidential candidate or any other candidate before? Is this the first time? Is this routine? Is this like totally exceptional? Is this the DNC just assaulting your right as a journalist for the journalism you want to practice?
You want me to answer that?
Yes.
Yeah, as this is the first time I've ever had anything happen to me like this. I think people know who I am, and I'm an independent thinker. As I mentioned earlier, there were 2 other African American journalists earlier this year who were fired for asking Joe Biden questions that were sent to them by the Democratic Party. But this has never happened to me before in my career.
So it occurs to me, is this just something that the DNC does to Black journalists? Are they in the business of telling Black journalists what they can and cannot talk about in our elections? What's your thought about that?
I have no idea. The only persons that I'm aware of who have gotten caught up in this happen to be African American journalists, and obviously I'm an African American. In case you didn't know, I'm black. I'm a black man, proudly, unapologetically. So I don't know who else are getting these kinds of emails. I just know what I just shared.
It's pretty insane. I mean, it's insane that DNC has gotten this desperate, and of course he. But like what he said, I'm going to now ask you the questions, which I don't know why you go along with it once you're like, hey, I've been told to completely violate all journalistic integrity and just ask you questions from the DNC, and here I go.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Here it's happening now. But this, this shows, as we talked about when Jill was on the other day, and anybody who wants to watch that interview, it's up for free at youtube.com/moment of clarity or rumble.com/Lee Camp. But as we talked about, this is them just scared that anyone could dare not vote for one of the 2 corporate candidates, one of the 2 pro-genocide candidates, pro-big oil candidates. Like, it's, whether you're going to do that or not, you should have the right to hear from Jill Stein and hear from her in a legitimate interview that is not controlled by the DNC. It's pretty pathetic.
Yeah. If you're not going to vote for the Democrats, at least vote for the Republicans. Don't vote for Jill Stein.
Don't you dare to facilitate third parties in this shit show. Okay, so I want to show a clip. This is so Theo Von. People that watch the show may have no idea. Theo Von has one of the largest podcasts in the world now. I think it's probably top 5 in America, but maybe even top 5 in the world. I don't know. And he had on Gabor Mate, and Gabor Mate, many people may know him. He is a very highly respected psychologist. He writes and speaks a lot on trauma, on childhood trauma. He himself was a baby in the Holocaust. His parents basically handed him off so that he could survive. And his son is Aaron Mate, who I know pretty well, but I've never met Gabor Mate. But anyway, Gabor Mate, as a Holocaust survivor, speaks very well and eloquently about the genocide that is going on right now in Gaza. And Theo Von is, basically a comedian, but he has on some good guests, and he is kind of just starting to learn about, I think as a lot of America is, sadly, to learn about how this is an actual genocide. This is what it is. And he had a very, very heartfelt reaction hearing Gabor Mate speak.
This is the children in Gaza are experiencing right now with the daily bombings and all this kind of stuff. What can they think? That there's something wrong with me.
Oh, imagine some kid over there in Gaza looking up and there's a bomb, and they think, man, I'm so horrible, I deserve to be bombed.
Well, you know what? There was a study done of Gazan children.
Man, that's crazy. I hadn't thought about that. Like, really imagine that, though.
There was a study done of children in Palestine. Can you imagine what's going to happen to that generation
Years from now?
Years from now. I mean, it just breaks my heart every day when I think about it. And
for any kids,
I know a lot of my fellow Jews don't agree with me, but as a Jewish person, I'm not the only one who feels that way. It especially breaks my heart.
Yeah.
You know?
When you put it in that sense, that a kid, imagine a kid like, you know, yeah, because what are they going to think? They don't know. They just think,
No.
man, something's so wrong with me. I deserve to be killed.
Yeah.
You know, or something. I don't know.
It's just a terrible.
No, it's heartbreaking. I mean, it feels
Yeah.
like a genocide is going on over there, and you don't know what to do. You know, it's like, you know, I mean, you can pray, you can speak up about it, and I know that there's like a more political aspects of it. And we've had different people come on to talk about Israel and Palestine on here,
Yeah.
and it was very knowledgeable for a
Yeah.
lot of our listeners because you hear about it a lot, but you don't know the history and everything. But
Well, I've been there. I went there 2.5 years ago to work with the Palestinian women tortured in Israeli jails.
wow,
And they had post-traumatic stress disorder.
So, you know, I like seeing, and for those listening to the podcast, Theo Von is drying his eyes because he's tearing up as he's speaking. And I like seeing that these people who kind of are so far out of a political understanding of our country, of the world, like even they are starting to get it. You
Mhm.
know, like, yeah, it's been a year, but this is still much of America is still waking up to what this really is.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like Theo Von is being, honest and transparent.
Yeah, yeah. I think many people have not, like, they've seen some of the imagery, but I think they see an image of a dead child and they go, "Oh, it's many of them for the past year have gone, oh, it's kind of shrugged it off like that's horrific, but it's complicated and
Mhm.
and I don't really know what's going on there." And I think many of those people who have tried to shrug this off, tried to ignore this in one way or another, are starting to come to the realization of
Yeah, I
what
think
this
there's
is.
two main they think like, oh well, it's so complicated, it's both sides, it's tragic, when it's pretty simple settler colonialism. And two, they think it's far away, when it's actually extremely close to home in terms of Israel's relationship to the U.S.
Yeah, and in terms of, and Theo Von might not know this, but in terms of the fact this couldn't be going on without U.S. approval.
Yeah.
U.S. approval and bombs, but both those things. Israel
Yeah.
doesn't have enough bombs. They don't have enough money to destroy their economy and keep going. If it weren't for the U.S., they don't have enough armaments. They don't have enough to go on like this. If it weren't for the United States funding them, arming them every second of every day, every 36 hours, the U.S. ships more missiles over to Israel to rain down on children. And, the analogy I've used, which points out just how insane it is, it'd be like a mall shooter that is just mowing everyone down, and his friend is standing outside the mall, not involved. And the press is, people in the press and everything have circled outside the mall, circling this friend and saying, "What's going on in there?" And he goes, it doesn't look good. Like, I wish it weren't happening. And then every once in a while, this guy outside the mall turns around and hands more guns and ammo to the guy inside and says, this really needs to stop. Oh, you need some more? Okay, here's some more guns. Just, okay. Yeah, just let me know what you need and I'll be here with it. Yeah, this really shouldn't be happening. It's bad.
It's unconscionable, as Kamala Harris said yesterday.
It's unconscionable. Yeah, that's the best you'll get from her, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone should look up Gabor Mate if they're not familiar with his work. Okay, I'm going to wrap up in just a minute, but I want to do one more story because we need to have our laughter palate cleanser, I think, here. This was just the other day. These are the lunatics running for office in our country. This was in Missouri, I think. Reporter was struck by shrapnel during a shooting range publicity event, and the two politicians involved were one named Kinzinger and the other one named, I kid you not, Kunz. Kunce.
Coots, it's Coots. How many times have I said it's Coots?
I'm sure it's pronounced Kuntz, right? But he's a Democrat, furthermore, for those of you that think that this is only Republicans that would do something this stupid. A reporter was struck by shrapnel during an event at a Missouri shooting range hosted by former GOP Representative Adam Kinzinger and Democratic Senate candidate Lucas Kuntz.
Hell yeah. Love to see him reaching across the aisle for great moments like this.
It's good to see some cooperation.
Some unity for once.
Kinzinger was campaigning alongside Kuntz at a private residence in Holt, Missouri. So they invited, I mean, just picture this, inviting press to come to your private residence where you're going to shoot AR-15s.
Yeah.
And this is a publicity stop.
Yeah.
This is a campaign stop.
It's politics, Lee. Okay. Don't call it a stunt.
While Kuntz was shooting at targets, reporter Ryan Gamboa was struck in the arm by a ricocheted bullet fragment, causing significant bleeding. And would you like to guess the tweet that Kuntz, the guy who shot him,
the shooter.
First sentence, great day at the range today.
Quote by active shooter Kuntz.
Great day at the range today with my friend Adam Kinzinger. We got to hang out with some union workers while exercising our freedom. This is a Democrat, by the way, for anyone who thinks the Democrats are somehow different. Always have your first aid kit handy. Shrapnel can always fly when you hit a target like today. I think it means the targets are probably a bit close, you idiot.
Mm-hmm. Always bring your umbrella on a walkout, and always bring your bulletproof vest to any of my public appearances.
And literally on this tweet where he's saying great day at the range, he has a photo of the journalist bleeding.
Yeah. Well,
like, it's one thing for this to happen. It's another to be like, this was a wonderful day. This is shit going right over at the shooting range.
mm-hmm.
And if you look at the photo, he's got an AR-15. The cups are like 5 feet from him.
Wow.
Like, why would you be shooting at something that close with an AR-15?
Mm-hmm.
No wonder it hit someone. Like, literally, it's 10 feet from him. These people are remarkable morons.
Yeah, dude, they're practicing their no-scopes, their no-scope kills.
I mean, if you miss something at 10 feet with an AR-15, you've got a real problem.
Yeah, dude, they're going for the no-scope melees. Clearly, you weren't a Halo player, Lee. I get that now after my third.
No, I'm not following. I'm not following your punchlines, but I'm sure you're
my third reference in a row. Come on.
I'm not following your punchlines, but I'm sure many are loving it. So
I hope so.
Next you're gonna start quoting lyrics from Doja Cat, and I'm gonna have no idea what you're talking
You got
about.
me nailed to a T. That's me.
All right, folks. I will be back tomorrow with Dangerous Ideas with Eleanor Goldfield, and then I will be gone for 2.5 weeks, but I will be uploading videos. And yeah, thanks to everyone. If you want to support this show, which is kind of barely hanging on, but it is hanging on. If you want to support the show for a whopping 38 cents an episode, please join up at leecamp.net, my locals page. Scroll down to become a subscriber. But if you want to read that free essay, that's also free on the locals page. So you can read it even if you have not become a subscriber. And check out the new podcast, Just Comedy. Please go ahead and rate it. And follow Jaffer as well.
Thanks for having me, Lee. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I will unfortunately not see Jaffer again for 2.5 weeks, but all of you can watch his stuff. So, all right. Thanks a lot, man. And everybody out there, keep fighting.
Well, brother, I salute you, though, man. You're one of the few that bring together this tremendous artistic talent and still be in such deep solidarity with oppressed people.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. While I was waiting, I was leafing through your wonderful book.
Same to you. I love your show. Be happy to come back anytime.
Lee, this is one of the great honors of my long career, just to be in in the same earth with you.
I'm sure.
We're just so blinded. We have so many blinders on because our society doesn't want us to know things. And so it takes shows like your show, and
it is clearly designed to eradicate.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jill, how are you? Julian, thanks for joining me. Honor to have you, brother.
Consumerism is a theory that people should behave this way to help each other. It's not.
Mr. George Galloway, thank you so much for joining me in these dark times.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lee, for having me on. Keep fighting. Ha.